A breath of fresh air. It's Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
Breaks my soul in crowd. My mind is moving slow. Far from all I know. Give me time to know. My mind is moving slow.
Welcome to this episode of Sunday Sanctuary called When His Food Felt Like Love. And if you're wondering, I wonder what's mysterious and spiritual and profound about food, well, try everything. But first of all, let me welcome you. E ngā manu, e ngā reo mai I ngā hau e whā. Tatu mai nei ki te manga o tēnei rākau whakaruruhau. Tau mai nei ki tēnei kaupapa. E pāpaho atu nei ki a koutou a rā ko Sunday Sanctuary. Ko Petra tēnei e rere ana ngā mihi ki a koutou. So, welcome to all of you from each corner of our wonderful country. Feel free to land on this branch of this sheltered tree. Welcome to this project, Sunday Sanctuary, coming out to you all. My name's Petra and I acknowledge you. Today's episode is the brainchild of Stephanie So Love Emau. She is a wonderful woman that I get to work with. She's a producer and she recently married a beautiful Tongan man. She herself hails from Singapore. So you're getting a little picture that her life might be quite tasty. I've welcomed her into the studio to tell us a little bit about when food felt like love. Steph.
Hello, Petra.
Can I say that something when we started hanging out I noticed was that you try and shoehorn food into almost every meeting and every project
without food present, because at that point it should just be an email.
I hear you, sister. But this has happened when we've been working together as well as socialising.
Yes, like the time that you and Pio Terei, who will be joining us later in this episode, both of you recently emceed my wedding, and I made sure that every official wedding planning meeting happened at a yamcha table, because it is only appropriate that we are creative around yamcha.
Only appropriate. And you're quite dedicated to snacks.
My snack drawer at work is currently very barren, so this is a good reminder that it needs a little bit of a top-up, because you and I share a snack drawer.
We do, and it needs some more love, I think, your snack drawer.
I think this episode will inspire that.
So it's something I wonder if it's something about being from Singapore that makes you so kind of attached and enamored with and involved with food.
Totally. I watched a video recently online that talked about hawker culture in Singapore. And
so hawker rolls, is that deliciously pancakey?
Hawker rolls.
Yeah. Is that a terrible European perversion of?
There is so much fusion food in New Zealand. Okay. Hawker centres in Singapore are these loud, busy food courts, mostly outdoors, where there are tons of little stalls that you can get so many different types of dishes from. And it's where we would spend every Saturday morning without fail. It is the foundation of our culture as Singaporeans. And this video I watched was describing our culture as a country made up of people from all over the place. So you've got Chinese, Indians, Malay, everyone is in Singapore. And as a small country, we don't have our own language. So we speak English, we speak our mother tongue. So for me, that's Mandarin because I'm Chinese. We don't have our own cultural outfits, but we have hawker culture. That is the essence of who we are as Singaporeans. So food is in my blood, really. And when I heard this food writer describe my culture like that, I was like, everything makes sense. It's in my blood. This is why you've probably told me multiple times, like, Steph, I feel like you structure your day around your eating. And yeah.
And it's no criticism. Sense. It's this noticing. It's like this, wow, food holds this place in your heart.
Yeah.
It's quite invitational.
Yes.
Like I feel like I love food more for loving you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That is my one goal in life. Come, let us eat.
Together.
Yeah. It's the thing that we gather around. We plan our days when we go back to visit family around food, and it's very intentional. You don't just go to any restaurant you want. You know, the Singaporeans know, like, this is the best restaurant to get chicken rice. And so we will travel 30, 40 minutes to get there. And because it's good, you stand in a line, because you don't go eat at restaurants that don't have a line. If it's empty, it's a good sign that it's not good. So we will go out of our way, and we will plan our days around our meals, and not just who we're going to be with, but what we're going to eat. And so that's how I've always grown up and how I've spent my life.
Yeah. Can I ask you what you would like people to get from this episode of When Food Feels Like Love?
I think a joy, this deep sense of belonging that can come from food, that can come from food that is attached to your culture, your family, your history, your memories, your childhood. There is so much in what we eat that goes beyond just getting us through our day, that goes beyond giving us the fuel to get to the next thing. But if we can slow down and we can fall in love again with the care and the creativity behind the creation of our meals, and see in it the invitation to get to know other cultures better, and to get to know other people better, then I think that's a win.
Yeah. Awesome. Food weaving us together. I've written some notes about when food felt like love for me, but I'm happy with yours.
Tell me a few dishes. Come on.
Wow. I just was like, I heard research when I was working at Parenting Place for a season, and it said there are 3 things we remember from our childhood, and they are outdoor play, holidays, and family meals. And I was like, whoa. Because some memories are being made to eat mushroom soup. Food didn't feel like love when I was being made to eat mushroom soup. I hated mushroom soup. Now, I adore mushrooms. I would possibly commit a crime for a mushroom, like,
But like specific kinds of mushrooms?
like a lot of mushrooms. I'm like yes to all the mushrooms right now, apart from the poisonous ones.
Correct.
But a food felt like love memory for me is when my dad had been kind of diving down to find somebody's lost glasses at the beach and said, "Throw me a bag, there's scallops down here." And he came back onto shore with this bag of scallops, and we had a barbecue, and we seared these scallops with a bit of garlic and put them on buttered Vogel's toast and ate them on the beach. And I'm like, oh, I'm in heaven.
I've never had this. I feel like we need to recreate this.
We could do it.
Okay, good.
And yeah, so I know that feeding my family personally sometimes is an act of love and sometimes it's an act of sacrifice. But the way I noticed we take photos of food, I think it's probably pretty dear to our heart. And I had a recent trip with my husband, and cheese is one of the abiding memories. He was working, and the production company bought a $150 round of cheese. This is like over $300. And so they were going to throw it away at the end of the filming. And Hamish was like, no, I'll take it. And then Hamish and I spent our 2 weeks together chopping chunks off this cheese and adding tomatoes or bagels or ham, jambon, and and eating this cheese. And that will be an abiding memory for me. So, yeah, thanks for coming up with this idea, and let's go on a journey to find out when food feels like love.
Awe, wonder, surprise, incredulity, admiration. Marvel at the world we live in. It's Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
We couldn't do a Sunday Sanctuary about when food has felt like love without finding something fabulous out about food, and whether or not you've intersected with this particular tidbit of profoundness, I just invite you to hear it all over again. Imagine a food that had no shelf life. For those of you like me who consults with use-by dates and best befores, imagine having a food in your life that never, ever expired. Well, archaeologists have found honey in Egyptian tombs that are approximately 3,000 years old, and the honey is still perfectly edible. The science behind that is because there's a low water content and there's an acidic pH. The magic behind that is, wow, A food made by an insect, stored in a dark place for 3,000 years, is still edible. And speaking of sweetness, here is a sweet little practice. Let's call it a grounding practice. This is an invitation for you to come into your body and your heart and your head. So an idea to hold is, can you adopt a curious brain, a curious heart, and a curious body? Let's start with our body. Feel free to close your eyes if you're in a position to do so safely. And even if you aren't, feel free to relax your body. So maybe you let your shoulders drop. Maybe you relax your hands. You might notice tension in your face. Maybe your tongue comes off the roof of your mouth. Just notice where your body is touching the ground, so to speak. Where is your body connected? Can you feel your bum on the seat, your feet on the floor, your hands on your lap? Maybe you're leaning against a wall. Maybe you can feel the carpet or wood. Wherever the earth is holding you, feel connected and held. I invite you to take 3 deep breaths into your belly, your beautiful diaphragmatic centre of you. So ha ki roto. In through your nose, and ha ki waho. Out through your mouth. As your shoulders relax, as you are curious about your body, as you breathe, just notice any tension. Send your breath to any places of holding or tightness. Now place your hands over your chest, your heart space, and breathe in through your nose. Notice if any feelings come up. Allow any feelings that are present to exist in your body. Kia ora, hello, to any feelings that arise. Can you send breath to those feelings now? Turn your curiosity towards your mind. Can you notice the texture and nature of your thoughts? Are there thoughts occupying your mind? Can you send your breath, ha ki roto, to calm and quiet your thoughts? Ha ki waho, to increase the space between thoughts. Imagine your thoughts floating up and away from you. Join me in one more deep, nourishing breath. And as you bat your eyelashes open, consider for a moment what comes up for you. What have you noticed in your body, your heart, and your mind? Each is a source of wisdom and knowledge, telling you things about where you're at, what perhaps you could pay attention to or attend to. Feel free to jot it down. When I did this with my spiritual director, I noticed a sense of peace, and I noticed also a sense of nourishment. But sometimes I notice difficult thoughts and feelings arise, and that is an invitation for me to care for them, to either feed them or calm them or release them. Thanks for doing Examine with me.
Sunday Sanctuary, your mug of goodness.
You are so welcome with us for the Sunday Sanctuary. It's such a pleasure to have your company. Thanks for taking the time to think about when food has felt like love for you and experience when food has felt like love for us. I know at my own table at home, on a special occasion, we'll light a candle, create a mood, some atmosphere. There's something about candlelight. And so I'd like to invite you to join me now, whether in your imagination or in practice, to light a candle, to remember good meals, to remember celebrations and moments of love that have been shared with yourself and with one another. As I touch the flame to the wick of this candle, just so grateful. Grateful for the light, for the heat, for the atmosphere. The atmosphere is set, and now I want to share with you a moment from my friendship with Terei, who is joining us later this episode to talk about when food has been love for him. A couple of years ago, I got up at the crack of dawn and joined him, who got up before the crack of dawn, to dig a hāngi pit. And it was Christmas and we were celebrating together. And he essentially invited me into his home to learn and understand more about the joy, the journey that is hāngi.
I'm here at Terei's house out in the country. Hoo-hoo. Looks like Pio's already built the pyre for the hāngi.
Hey, welcome.
Kia ora. Oh, what a beautiful morning.
We'll go.
So what kind of wood are we using? Manuka?
Manuka.
Yeah, manuka.
And it's beautiful and it's dry and it's cut to length. And these river rocks have been burnt before because they will actually pop when you burn them the first time. So these are all been, what would be the word?
Cured.
Cured. So, ready to go?
I am.
Because it's my whare and we're not on the marae, I think you should light it. Dun, 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 dun.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
It's not a test, eh?
Bit of a clue though, at the bottom.
I'm like, there's no paper though, eh?
Yeah, no, there's cardboard there.
Oh, man, you set a girl up for success.
And you've got to go right round it.
I'm willing to go right round.
Gonna go right round, baby, right round.
Like a rabbit, baby.
See, over here.
Okay. Oh.
Something's burning.
It is, isn't it?
You are an expert, Petra. So that's it.
Yes.
You know, and I just love it. Reminds me of my childhood up north when the old people would light the fires for the hāngi, and it just gives you this warm feeling, eh? But it's got to be manuka.
And cured river rocks.
And cured river rocks. And having the K basket on the top just disinfects it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Just makes it completely clean. Gets rid of whatever.
Yeah, and we got our taro leaves growing over here, so we use that to wrap our kei in. I've got some cabbage that you bought, and you know, I woke up pretty tired this morning, but I can feel my emotional tank filling.
Well, I was going to say, you texted me at 4:30 a.m. So
hey, snooze is a loser's girl.
This is a bit of there's a process to a hāngi.
Oh, yeah, the process is whanaungatanga. And I remember my old man saying, my dad saying, you know, boy, these microwaves are no good. I said, why? And he says, because you can't form a relationship around a microwave.
No, it's too quick.
Too quick, you can around a hāngi.
And the word you used, whanaungatanga.
Whanaungatanga.
We know whānau,
Yeah.
so you're adding ngatanga to it,
Yeah.
which means the way of family.
Yeah, and the creation of family or whanaungatanga.
The creation of relationship.
Yeah.
So whanaungatanga is, let's become mates, let's become whānau, let's become friends, let's eat and be together.
Yeah.
So hāngi's all about that. And just a slight curing of us.
Totally. Isn't it funny how the smoke will follow you around?
Yeah, it's amazing wherever you stand there.
Officer?
How long have we been burning for now?
About an hour and a half, but those, you can see the change in the look of the rocks now.
So what is the change that I'm looking for in the rocks? I mean, they're surrounded by flames.
Yeah.
They look really hot.
Yeah.
But what am I looking for specifically? Kind of a tinge
Just
of
that
red?
one, yeah. Did you just
That
see the one at the
red.
back starting to go
Yeah,
red?
actually
and then
really do.
With a white sort of,
Tinge
just
to
white
it.
or red hot. So what we'll do with me mate Chris is we'll get those rocks out and just rake them in the hole, put the K on.
Tum, 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 tum.
Bob's your mother's brother.
So you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to work out the way that works for you.
All people
The
have
tongue-
all sorts of different ways. See, they're starting to go pink, those rocks?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Have you just seen my face light up over the last half hour?
I have. Hey, we're going to watch the hangi come out. Come on, pups. Come on.
Kia ora tātou whānau. Just a big welcome and a thank you for being here. Welcome to our place. And especially to my mate Petra, because this is her show. I'm just the beautiful assistant, I suppose. And what we're going to do is we're going to all the soil over that side and then put the hangi on here.
Oh, here it goes.
It's a good sign.
Oh,
So
the
Petra-
steam is rising. Okay, yep. So we've got 3 boys on shovels and we're scraping all the dirt off the matting over to one side back towards the fire, and steam is coming up. And we've got about 35 people assembled around the hangi pit because when you're cooking like this, celebration cooking is worth an audience.
Just keep it coming off, right?
There we go. Yeah.
Can we get a knife, please? A knife. Oh, anybody get a knife. It's West Auckland. Somebody got a knife?
Pocket knife, right?
Oh, yeah, pocket. Just poke the meat, bro. Once we...
Anybody.
Not that we can do anything about it. And then pull that side back, bro, please.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
just lift the corners back. Yeah. Whoa. One on each corner. No. Always that way, bro. Just poke the meat down the bottom, Chris. Have a look.
That looks pretty blimmin' cooked to me.
Taro.
Oh, that's good, P.
That's great.
Yeah. Ko pai, bro?
Cool pie. That's good.
Kia ora whānau. Whakarongo mai. Hey guys, I'm just going to ask Petra to bless our kei. What's going to happen is, just so you guys know, we've got all the veggies there, plus we've got 3 types of meat, okay? And there's heaps of it. So just when you go down and get your kei, just ask if you want a bit of chicken or want a bit of whatever you want, okay? We don't want to load up and waste kei. It's not how we roll. So Petra, kia ora.
I te atua, whakapaina e ne kai. He ora mō mātou tinana. Hangaia o mō mātou wairua. Ki te taro o te ora, ko ihu karaiti. Tomato, ariki, amene. We have chicken, we have lamb, and we have pork. We have the beautiful pumpkin, the cabbage, the kumara, the potato. We have salad, we have bread, we have people. So he tangata, that's all we need.
Yeah, and we've got heaps of aroha.
Kia ora e hoa.
Tēnā koe, Petra. Tēnā koe. Nice to be back in your space.
Thank you for coming. And wasn't that so fun listening to a couple of years ago when we put down a hangi? It was Christmas time, I believe.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And it made me hungry. It's just, just the whole, and I felt myself getting more and more excited, because when you actually open a hangi and you're sort of taken on the responsibility for it, you want it to be cooked. So it can be a bit of a anxious time. But that was cool.
Yeah, it was so good. We're talking today about when his food felt like love, because things that are physical are and can be more than just physical. Like a hug can be more than one person squeezing another person.
Sure.
And food can communicate and care for and tend to our wairua, our spirits, our bodies, our minds in ways that I think sometimes are surprising. So,
Yeah.
you know, a hangi for me calls back to my childhood when I used to visit my auntie and uncle in Tūrangi.
Yep.
And sometimes, I don't even know the context, but we would have a hangi. We would end up somewhere where we got to eat.
Were they Māori or Pākehā?
Pākehā.
Oh, so they'd just slide over the fence to the Kazis. Quite a common thing to do, because when you're making a hangi, you just go, oh, kia ora, come over and have a kei.
I want to know now, how come? Because they were delicious. I remember them being this anticipation of the deliciousness of the steam and the smoke and the time and the revelation of the food as it came up.
Yeah.
And just being like, this is so good.
Well, you know what, for hangi, and we're talking about when does food sort of
Feel like love.
feel like love. There's a lot at stake. And when you look in not just a Māori world, often we talk about Māori, we don't have a monopoly on this, but like in all cultures, when auntie's dishing up the steam pudding or you're opening the hangi, there's a lot of mana involved, eh? Especially because we got people on our marae, don't get anybody else to do that hangi and don't get any other auntie to do the steam pudding, and that's the way it is. But yeah, certainly lots of aroha in the kei.
Yeah, interesting you talking even about mana. Like when you're hosting, there can be that stress, eh? It can boil up into arguments or...
See what you did there?
My husband and I.
Oh, really?
We're much better now at hosting an event or a feast or a get-together, because somehow now the food, perfection of the food isn't the only thing. It's like about being together more than the food. But when I think about when food has felt like love for me, some of the things, there's quite a lot of nostalgia there.
Yeah.
Like I think
a lot of it is nostalgia.
Isn't it? Like my grandmother who lived in Picton and was the one house in my life that never changed. Like they just always lived in that house, and we moved houses all the time. And I would go and there would always be baking in the tins. Yeah. Always her unbaked slice.
It's her mama.
Always her shortbread. Always her Louise cake, And it was that I would go there and she loved me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's her love language, is to manaki, to look after other people. For us, it was preserves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and, then Mum got a little bit flash and she'd preserve golden queen peaches in the big tall jars, which my favourite, and then she'd put passion fruit in there. You're looking at me because I'm doing all the actions here in the studio, but she'd squeeze passion fruit, and for Mum, she was pushing the boundaries here.
Putting passion fruit in the peaches.
Hey, crikey, dicks, Mum. No, we didn't talk like that, actually.
No.
But my mum was not a very good cook at all. Mm-hmm. And when you look because cooking and mahi kai is about ingredients, and the ingredients for them growing up were very limited. She was meat and veg, like a lot of New Zealanders. So her food wasn't that flash, but boy, when our mum left us, we missed that kai, because it was the people ingredient, and she served it with pride, And I remember when we were all teenagers, we were all playing, I'm a Westie boys, we were all playing rugby league for Te Atatu. And my dad and mum always made our home teen friendly. So we'd have all our mates round after a game, and Mum would do a boil up, with neck chops and cabbage and kumara and stuff. And some of these kids were Māori kids like ours, and some of them were our Pākehā whānau whose dads were accountants and stuff. But when we were sat round that table, we all felt so special, because of Mum's cooking. Eat up, boy. Eat up, and her homemade scones and Māori bread, and that feels like love. And even those guys now, 45 years later,
Whoop, whoop.
we'll still go, I remember, bro, when, these are guys from overseas, and we catch up once every couple of years. I remember when your mum used to do those boil-ups for us, bro. Oh, awesome, eh? That's love. That's aroha. And that's nostalgia, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's aroha.
Yeah.
I mean, remembering back to that moment, the fact that moment sticks in their minds as a moment of connection or a moment of being cared for or comforted or loved on.
Yeah.
I think about as a mama holding all the likes and dislikes of my children in my head. Like if I'm cooking dinner, I'm like, well, we can't put the chili in because such and such, Mama doesn't like the chili, and then we need to keep the mushrooms. Like Jude doesn't like the mushrooms, and such doesn't like the taste of the cucumber, so we can just put that to the side. And so-and-so's a vegetarian, and such doesn't like prawns. And my husband's like, you worry too much. And I'm like, is it worry? Is it worry, or is it that there's a part of my heart that wants to provide food
and please?
That the person will be like I know my oldest son. If he is fed, he feels loved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's just his thing if I make him food.
Yeah.
And it's not got any of the ingredients that if I put the ingredients that he doesn't like in, he does not feel loved.
But, I remember going to homes when I was a little kid with my dad up north and stuff, and these are pretty humble homes where people have had nothing. And you go in there, hara mate, and you sit down first thing, cup of tea. and it might be a bit of bread or some round wine biscuits, and you could feel amongst those old people the mana of giving to each other. It doesn't matter what it was, and that's key. And it's a big part of Māori culture, of course, because that's once you've done formalities and stuff, you sit down and you break bread. Okay, if you've got some, or break round wine biscuits or whatever. But just, I learned as a kid that if people gave you kei, doesn't matter what it is or what they had to give, they were giving. You know, and that's where food is real love.
Yeah, so true. You just saying that reminds me of trips to Nepal and Thailand and Cambodia, where you show up in a, agricultural village where it's subsistence farming, and you sit down and they want to give you tea. They want to give you something that honours your journey to them, or your mahi with them, or your and it's, you're like, wow, the effort, time, attention that you've put into this is expensive.
Yeah. And plus the fact that so many people in this world have got nothing to give, and then you turn up and they give their nothing to you.
I know, it's amazing.
But there's another thing, Petra, that I think about is the ingredient of kei and love, okay? And that ingredient is actually making kei together. Okay, cooking together.
Yeah.
Okay, like where I see my wife's a very, very good baker, and her Croatian nana, she taught Deb how to make all those Croatian biscuits and stuff like that, those deep fried donuts. And
I'm coming over.
Yeah, and those little things that you tie in a bow. People don't even know what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this amazing, and my wife knows how to make it. And that was their bond. So if you ask, when does food become love? Food becomes love when you're doing it together, even if it's a barbie.
So true, eh?
Yeah.
My husband was away for a couple of days, and you're out, you're on the barbie.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is...
Whoa. Hang on. Your husband went away and you went on his barbecue?
Honestly.
Ooh. Hamish, we need to talk.
It was heaven. A, you're outside the house.
Yeah.
You can't see any of the mess. You can't hear any of the kids. B, you have a bevy. C, the food is cooking itself. You're going to have to turn it every now and then.
You've got those big tongs.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I was like, and I love seeing men or women standing around the barbecue, telling each other tales. And I guess that's an amazing thing, isn't it? When you let somebody into your kitchen, or somebody lets you into their kitchen.
Oh. Yeah.
My friend said, it's stressful cooking with you, Petra, because you want everything done right. Well, the reason is I'm not a great cook. I'm just like an average cook.
Staying
I'm sticking with the recipe. Let's follow the recipe, people. Nope, I want it cut like this. And they're like, we'll just do it. I'm like, nope, let's go back to the recipe.
It's just I did a series on Māori TV called Tangaroa, which was looking at our relationship as Māori with Tangaroa, the atua of the sea, right? And we ended up going to this marae, and I thought, man, DIY marae's got to come to this place. This is just about falling down. And they were finding things hard in this community. When they set the table for us, mate, they pulled out all the stops. It was an absolute banquet. And with a lot of Māori, and I can say this because I am one, you're looking at me, says, how did the function go? Oh, bro, the food was good. How was the wedding? Oh, I tell you, the food was good. They have this thing, and I'm not going to do it because I don't know the whakatauki exactly or the proverb, but if it's right at the back on a marae, it'll be all cool up the front. So if your wharekai is working, and when you think about that, that's making sure that your manuhiri or your visitors, be it a marae or your house or whatever, are treated with the utmost aroha through giving them kei.
So yes to what you're saying in terms of I just know it makes my heart happy to give people food, even as a average cook. I just want to feed people. I want them to eat and drink at my place and be loved, be cared for. So I guess that very practical sustenance of the body, the tinana, and then you think you're also saying, you're communicating to them,
Yeah.
I care about you. I
Yeah.
care about your health, your well-being. I care about your life. I care about who you are, and I'm supporting and nourishing you, hopefully.
Totally. But I've got a question for you.
Aye.
You know, I celebrate diversity in our country, and especially here in Tamaki and Auckland. How many cultural interactions, or how have people who have come to our country, you know, from Asia and all, how big a part has their Indigenous food played in relationships with us Kiwis?
Oh, my goodness.
Huge.
Oh, my goodness. So big, so huge.
Yeah.
In so much as I've just come home from France and I'm like, French food's a little bit boring. Like there's lots of Italian, like not, you know, not in a bad way. Like,
Yeah.
the pastries are amazing and whatever. But oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's love.
Flavors and vegetables and ways of doing. So I grew up when I was 3 years old to 8 years old. I lived in Miramar in Poneki, Wellington.
Yep.
And we grew up next to Mrs. Chang. And
Right.
Mrs. Chan's two older sons had
She's not Māori, is
moved
she?
away. She's not Māori, no. She was our beautiful Chinese next door neighbour. And Mrs. Chan missed her sons and basically
Feed you lot.
fed me and my brother. We were at her house all the time, and
Yeah.
we would eat what was called, I think, the sticky rice, but it was
Yeah.
the burnt rice around
Yeah.
the side of the box. We were at her house all the time. Just thinking about it fills my heart with joy.
Yeah.
Because look, I don't know. I went somewhere and I was like, why do I feel so at home? I'm in China. Why do I feel like so happy here?
Yeah.
It's like
Because of that woman's aroha.
that woman's aroha.
Yeah, her love.
Yeah, and we didn't speak the same language. We did not speak the same language.
But food is a language.
But we spoke the same language.
Aye.
Kai,
Yeah.
she fed us and we ate.
Yeah.
And we were happy and she was happy.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
But you know, you look at some of the challenges of our New Zealanders, right, and some of the attitudes that have matured now, which I'm pleased to say. But one thing you can't argue with, you know, a lot of their in was their K, and you know, we've as New Zealanders, like I was in China and I went to Yum-Cha. I love Yum-Cha, okay, and I thought, you know what? I didn't say it out loud. You can get Yum-Cha this good in Auckland because we've got the chefs from over there and we've got the best produce in the world. I'm digressing, but what I'm talking about is K is meant to bring people together.
And when you were talking about people ingredient, you were saying your mum wasn't the best cook,
No.
but it's the people ingredient. I think about memorable meals, even here or overseas, and they are when I am with somebody I love or
Yeah.
with somebody who I'm learning to love or know.
Yeah.
And there's time. And we sit and we eat together. And those are, like this last trip that I did with my husband, essentially breakfast was joy because we would sit over cheese and croissant, jam, ham. That was it, just bread, cheese, croissant, ham. Happy.
Sounds flesh to me.
It's flesh as. But it was the time that was the luxury, being there with him, having time to talk. You know, those breakfasts were probably the highlight of the trip.
Yeah, and I'm pulling faces because you keep talking about time, and we live in a society where we're time poor, and sometimes we just got to be selfish and go, no. We're going to do this because it's good for our wairua, good for our spirit, you know. Really, really cool. I love food, but I love the occasion of food. I've got a little mate of mine up in Mitsi, up in the far north. He's a bachelor. He lives in his parents' house overlooking the water. And I'm sort of training him in a nice way or helping him to say, bro, whenever you go to somebody's place, you take K. And whenever I arrive, you have a meal ready for me. So anyway.
This is really sort of good training.
Yeah. So I ring him.
Self-serving training, but I like it.
Yeah, so I ring him up, and he's a meat and two veg sort of a Pākehā fella.
Yeah.
He's my brother.
Yeah.
And I ring him up and says, oh, bro, I won't get there till 9 o'clock at night. He says, that's all right. Your kai will be on the table, bro.
Oh.
And I get there, and he had corn silverside, peas,
Yeah.
carrots, white sauce, and kumara. And I tell you what, and a cold beer. And I tell you what, I hugged him. I says, bro, tēnā koe mō tō aroha. Thank you for your love for me by giving me this kai. And then, you know what I said? Any dessert? And he had jelly tips. He had jelly tips. So he gave me a jelly tip.
He's a good man.
He's a good man.
When his food felt like love. In case you were wondering, the hangi was delicious. And dish of the day was actually Deb's pumpkin, which maybe Pia was a little bit miffed about. It definitely won dish of the day.
It's the Sacred Text on Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
Here's a sacred text. It's an excerpt from a memoir written by Michelle Zorner. It's called Crying in H-Mart. H-Mart is a chain of Korean supermarkets in America, and Michelle's memoir is about growing up Korean American, losing her mother, and forging her own identity.
Sweet braised black soybeans, crisp yellow sprouts with scallion and sesame oil, juicy cucumber kimchi were shoveled into our mouths behind spoonfuls of warm lavender kongbap straight from the open rice cooker. We'd giggle and shush each other as we ate kanjangaejan with our fingers, sucking salty, rich, custardy raw crab from its shell, prodding the meat from its crevices with our tongues, licking our soy sauce-stained fingers. Between chews of a wilted perilla leaf, my mother would say, "This is how I know you're a true Korean." I remember these things clearly because that was how my mother loved you. Not through white lies and constant verbal affirmation, but in subtle observations of what brought you joy, pocketed away to make you feel comforted and cared for without even realizing it. She remembered if you liked your stews with extra broth, if you were sensitive to spice, if you hated tomatoes, if you didn't eat seafood, if you had a large appetite. She remembered which banchan side dish you emptied first, so the next time you were over, you'd be set with a heaping double portion, served alongside the various other preferences that made you, you.
I love hearing from you, our Sunday Sanctuary community, and we went to you with two questions. When has food felt like love? And what food feels like love? And this is what you had to say. Chicken soup, when it smells like my grandmother's, i.e. it must contain celery. African food, my biggest pregnancy craving, feels like home from Lorraine. Jollof rice, specifically Ghanaian jollof rice. Just stirring up the old Ghanaian Nigerian food with that comment. It reminds me of our big shared lunches after church. Jollof rice was a staple one of the Ghanaian mums would make for our community each week. Rochelle says, when friends drop off meals in hard times. Another was, I studied in California for 3 years, and every time I came home to Auckland over my breaks, Mum would have a big pot of my favourite Chinese cabbage soup ready. For Sam, his story is, I live away from family in Auckland, and on my birthday this year, a homemade carrot cake, a pottle of icing, chopped walnuts and dried apricots arrived by courier to my flat. It was all made by my mum and sent all the way from Dunedin, ready for me to assemble. A few weeks later, I was driving my car back to Auckland, only to pull over at a rest stop and find a carrot cake secretly popped into the boot, of course along with a pottle of icing. When my mum bought me lasagna after I had a baby, I called it life-saving lasagna. I bet that tasted so good. Another, making a pot of my grandmother's vegetable soup. I think of her every time I make it. When the whānau caught kaimoana for my papa's tangi from Hikitia. When my teammates sent me a box of dinners after my house was flooded. True nourishment, said Alison. Kathy said, my grandmother's baking. And Sonia said when a colleague went out of her way to buy gluten-free hot cross buns from a special bakery so I didn't miss out. Another person said, when my grandma makes us our favourites, you know she has thought about you from start to finish. For Leanne, it's when I'm not feeling well and hubby makes chicken and veggie soup, just like my mum used to. Our family has lived away from Singapore for over 20 years now. Whenever we go back home to visit Grandma, she has our favourite fruit stocked in the fridge for us. Serving cut fruit to loved ones is a universal love language for Chinese people. And Kim said, early in our relationship, I was very sick, and the only thing I could keep down was tuna in white sauce with mashed potatoes on top. Sounds yuck, but very delicious. 25 years on, and my husband still makes it for me when I'm sick or needing comfort food. I love this man. For Erin, whenever we used to visit Grandma, she'd always make me Rice Krispie treats. I miss that. Mum's mashed potatoes. Doesn't matter what else is going on. They are silky beyond reason. Thanks, Mary Kate. And from Grace, whenever I go to visit my family, Dad will always have a delicious roast done on the first night I'm back, or even multiple nights. It's such an expression of home and love, so simple, comforting and constant. And finally, Nicolette, the memory of 2 milky cups of tea with cold toast made with love by little people. Oh, Nicolette, I hear you. I remember my parents even telling a story about the first cup of tea we made, and they said, oh, this is delicious, thank you. Could you just get me name anything, a biscuit from the kitchen? And we ran down to get a biscuit from the kitchen. They whipped out of bed, threw the cup of tea out the window and jumped back into bed, and they were like, we're finished already. Because the reason their tea was so cold was as soon as the jug had made any noise, we thought it was boiled and had made the tea essentially with cold water.
Food for the Soul on Sunday Sanctuary with Petra Bagust.
This is a reading from Stanley Tucci's Taste My Life Through Food. So, here we go. In this latter ragu recipe that was brought to America by my paternal grandfather's family and was served every Sunday in my home growing up, although meat-based and slow-cooked, it is still quite soft and delicate, as well as being a very hearty, comforting meal. The base is created with different cuts of meat, such as beef shin, short ribs and pork ribs, all still on the bone, and even a pig's foot, and browned slightly in oil. Meatballs made with ground beef, bread, garlic, parsley, egg and parmigiano are fried and set aside with the browned meat. A tomato sauce is slowly cooked for a bit. Then the meat and its juices are added, and a short while afterwards, the meatballs and their juices are incorporated. Like most stews or ragu, it is best cooked the day before or early that evening and set aside to allow the flavours to gel. It is served with dried pasta, usually rigatone, zita rigati or penne rigate. The reason for using pasta such as these is that the rigati or corrugated surfaces of the ziti or penne hold the sauce much better than the smooth surfaces of their regular versions. When the pasta is ready, the meat and the meatballs are removed from the sauce and set on a separate platter. The sauce is strained to ensure there are no rogue bone fragments, and a ladleful is incorporated into the strained pasta, the rest being poured into a serving bowl, which can be added to each individual serving. The pasta is presented as a first course and sprinkled with grated parmigiano or grated pecorino romano if your preference is the same as my paternal grandfather's. The meat, which is now so soft it is falling off the bone, and the meatballs are served as a second course on a plate. Never are the pasta and the protein served together in this case. Were I to ever place a meatball in my pasta bowl, they were so good I couldn't wait to get to them, I would be roundly chastised by my parents. I was not only ruining the intended flow of the meal, but it was considered crass, not unlike eating bread with pasta. Meat, unless it is actually a part of the sauce, as with ragu alla bolognese, is meant to be served separately, just as bread is meant to be eaten after pasta, and only used as a scarpetto, meaning in essence little shoe, to mop up any excess sauce left in the bowl. These are the rules that have existed for generations, and I am happy to abide by them as they make sense. Yes, I know there is a difference between dogma and just the way things are, because that should be the way, which is also the definition of dogma, I think. But the line between the two is thread thin when it comes to certain things culinary in my family. It was the aroma of this ragu that I awakened to practically every Sunday morning of my childhood. Even today, when I am with my parents on a Sunday, it is this traditional meal that we share. We have the privilege of talking to Sophie Gray, the genius behind Destitute Gourmet, author of cookbooks, food editor, and now operations manager of Good Works Trust Food Bank. I know you've been out this morning in the wind and the rain. You've been out helping people and doing good work. Welcome and thanks so much for joining me on Sunday Sanctuary.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
When you were listening to Stanley Tucci's so well-known nature of the construction, the preparation, the consumption of this meal, what does it bring to mind for you?
Well, it reminds me that within families we have an unspoken understanding often around food and the way we handle it, and the dishes that you hold in high regard, as opposed to the ones that are just like Tuesday night dinner, and the order in which they're served. And as a family, your kids grow up kind of absorbing information by osmosis, so you don't necessarily have to tell them that the grandparents get to serve themselves first, or that you are. In our family, we had a saying. My mother would say when there were extra people around the table that perhaps were unexpected, she'd just whisper in the kitchen quietly, FHB, and it stood for family hold back. And it meant that as we grew up, we understood that you want to make sure that your visitors are always full and satisfied before the family, and the very few words need to be used because there is this understanding around food.
Yeah, and food, I mean, in that instance, food communicates manaakitanga hospitality. It's like so important to care for your guests. And do you care for them knowing that you'll be able to eat later, or do you care for them because it's the right thing to do?
Yes, and I mean, I had the great good fortune to grow up in a family where love and food were both very plentiful. We didn't go without, but because hospitality was also a high priority, if we came home as kids with, a bunch of friends, they would be invited to stay for dinner, or, if my dad had a work colleague around after work, it'd be, oh no, stay and have dinner. And that's the point at which mother might have been going, because she hadn't necessarily planned for that, but she was going to make it happen. And I always really liked that anybody was welcome at our table.
I love that. An open table is a tremendously generous position to take, isn't it? Was your mother a good cook?
My mother is the one who should have gone to cookery school. So among my earliest memories are walking up to the post office with my mother as a preschooler, because she was avidly awaiting the arrival of her latest Cordon Bleu cookery book or Michael Carrier recipe magazine to be sent from the UK. And her weekends were spent cooking very elaborate and complex dinner parties for my father's advertising clients. So my sister and we grew up around the smells of cooking and experimental flavors and things that were actually probably quite unusual in New Zealand at that time. Because she was very interested in European cookery. And we would get up on a Sunday morning and eat the leftovers while we listened to the stories on the radio on a Sunday morning.
So is that an example of when food has felt like love for you, those Sunday mornings?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because we saw the effort that went into it. And I mean, we're talking hours and hours of labour. But, even, I said before, sort of flippantly about, it's not Tuesday night dinner. But I have a very, very vivid memory of a weeknight dinner when I was a little girl that I will never forget because my mother died when I was in my early 20s, so I can't really ask her too much about these things now. But neither of us, and this is a bit of an open secret, I don't eat seafood. I don't like the fishy taste. And I inherited that from my mother. She didn't like the fishy taste. And also my daughter can't eat seafood. So it appears to be in our DNA somewhere. But my mother was desperate to get me to not have her same hang-up. And I remember one night she had cooked for dinner, because my father loved it, sole almondine. It was a weeknight. We'd come home from school and there was this really fancy fish dish that she'd spent hours making. And it was yet another occasion where I was sitting with big fat tears rolling down my cheeks over a fish dinner. And in the end, she looked at me and she said, "You don't have to eat it, because I can't eat it." And she took the plate away, and she and I had peanut butter toast while my father and my sister, relished every mouthful of their sole almondine. And the forgiveness of, you don't have to eat that. She tried and tried and tried to get me to be a lover of fish. And I remember that you don't have to eat that as a kindness, as an act of love and compassion, and also a joining of our souls. This thing we share, it's awkward when you live on a small island and everybody loves fish. So
I love that. I love that it's something that bonded you together, that brought you closer, even though it was an apparent difficulty. The difficulty of not eating this. And can I also notice about that memory that the memory is created not through the competency of your mother's cooking in that situation, but through the large use of her heart.
Yes, exactly. It was the loving act of, I'm not going to force you to do something that is making you unhappy. I don't want you to dread the dinner table. And I remembered it, and I applied it with my own children, because it meant a lot to me. If you genuinely can't eat something, and that's as meaningful as all of the love and effort or the prayerful consideration that goes into somebody preparing something for you when you are ill. I spent 20 weeks in hospital when I was pregnant with my daughter, because I have that morning sickness condition, hyperemesis. So I was terribly, terribly ill. Couldn't eat anything. Couldn't even keep shaved ice down. It was just horrendous.
Sounds bad.
And it was really bad. I mean, women have died of being pregnant for centuries. I'm fortunate that I live in an age when they can put a drip in your arm and,
feed you.
Give you fluid, so you stay alive until the baby comes out.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the other things, the challenges of that, is that when you do come out of that terrible hyperemesis phase, you have been malnourished. And I lurched through craving after craving. And my sister, bless her, we were living with her at the time because I'd been so ill. Every night when she prepared dinner for the adults and for her children, she would pray that there would be something on the table that I could bear to eat. And every night without fail, there was something. And sometimes it was the weird leftovers from her toddler twins, the crusts of their French toast or whatever they'd had. But every single time. And that meant so much to me as I burst into tears over a plate of pancakes with lemon and sugar, because I had been so deprived of lemon. It was extraordinary.
Wow. You were the right person to talk to about this. Because, partly I approach this as somebody who I love hospitality, and I adore gathering people together and making it a lovely space, like creating an atmosphere. But I'd say my cooking skills are decidedly average. I said that at the dinner table the other night, and my husband's like, "Oh, you don't have to be so hard on yourself." And I'm like, I'm just being honest. My mother is a good cook. She's a good cook, and she spent time and energy, and she really cared and did it. But I just didn't inherit that particular nuance of being. So it's like how I love feeding people, but love is expressed differently in different ways by different people.
My husband is not interested in cooking, and he is not a very good cook at all. But when he cooks for me, it doesn't matter how average it is. That is an act of love, and I will eat anything he puts in front of me, and it doesn't matter how basic it is, because frankly, I didn't have to make it. I didn't have to make the decision. I know it's way harder for him to make me chicken tonight than it is for me to make him chicken cacciatore. that's my wheelhouse. It's easy for me. So when somebody else cooks for me, it means a lot. And people are offering intimidated to cook for a food writer. So anytime somebody invites me for dinner, I'm so grateful, because I know that for some people that's an act of bravery as well as an act of hospitality. And frankly, they can invite me around and give me cheese on toast and I'll be thrilled because I didn't have to make it.
That's so love hearing you say that. So good. It really is opening the door. Like that's largesse of heart, just as your mother offered it to you. You're saying, I will, if you feed me, I will gratefully receive it.
I will eat it with relish. I don't care what it is. Just make me toast, as long as I don't have to make the decision.
Yeah. And as far as food feeling like love, what do you think about that concept, this idea of us as humans we need to feed not just our bodies, but our minds and our hearts and our souls. We need our spirits fed. So is there I'm searching, is there a metaphor here for when food is much more than physical?
Well, I've always said that good food lovingly prepared nourishes more than just our body. There is just no question whether it's the tray that's left on your doorstep on the day of your mother's funeral, or the food parcel you receive in the worst week of your life. Those things nourish more than just your body. I mean, I run a food bank, my 9 to 5. Today we have a food parcel going out to a Ukrainian refugee family. They have no English. We will be considering very carefully what goes in that food parcel. So not only do they have the basics and the things that they need to be able to prepare food, we'll give them foods that they recognize. But we also want some things that lift their spirits, because we know that a little bit of chocolate or a little treat somewhere along the lines, it does lift your spirit. And that when they open that box, hopefully they will know that people in New Zealand have loved them and welcomed them, and they are not forgotten. And so all of those little things, as they eat that meal, they'll feel remembered. So I do think very strongly there is a connection between food and our spiritual well-being, and that even as a household who can't feed yourself well, your mana is impacted.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to be able to put good food on their table, and when we can't, it's bad for us. I have to say, I'm looking very concernedly at my computer battery.
we might lose you in a moment. Well, let me see.
I'm down to the red line.
You're down to the red line. Let's see if I can race the red line. I just wanted to say, while we're still recording, thank you so much for the Good Works Trust Food Bank. Thank you for the work that you do. It's so important. And if anybody wants to have a little Google, we'll put some show notes in our episode so that you can find out more. But thank you for elucidating food and love and belonging and forgiveness and care and kindness all together wrapped up in, one glorious kōrero. Thank you.
Sunday Sanctuary, a reset for your soul.
Now, as you may or may not be aware, Sunday Sanctuary is loosely based on a liturgical church service, and that word liturgical or liturgy refers to those repeated, intentionally crafted elements, like, for example, reading a sacred text or the prayers of the people. So one of those liturgical rhythms that churches practice when they get together is communion. And it comes basically from when Jesus shared his final meal with his closest friends and followers the night before he died. So when I think about communion and when has food felt like love, I'm aware that we all have needs. This is the human condition, right? I mean, just physically, we need sleep and shelter and sunlight and water and warmth and touch and food. We are needy, whether we recognise it or not, and these liturgies of daily meals are repeated. They're moments that we can refill our tanks and get the energy we need to power our lives. And as a mum, the repetition sometimes is relentless. But one of the things I love about the Last Supper is the recognition that there are more than just our physical needs to be met. We have deep trauma that needs to be healed. We hunger and thirst for justice to be done in a messed up world. We need peace and rest. Yet we're driven towards being busy and critical, frantic, even antagonistic. And when you begin counting our immaterial needs, golly, they start to add up. So when we gather to this virtual table, this meal, we're reminded of Jesus' final night with his friends, where he strangely says that the meal is his own body. It's like he's saying, let me be what sustains you. I wonder how differently I'd feel, how differently I'd live even, if I operated out of a place of loving provision. With so much need, so much hunger, it's easy to default to a scarcity mindset. There's not enough to go round. There's not enough love, not enough kindness, not enough grace for all the needs we have. So today, in this moment, what would it look like for us to partake in an attitude of loving provision for your spiritual needs, as if we turned our face towards knowing our needs can be met? And then to make a rhythm of that, a ritual that you, your friends, your whānau return to and remember, like a regular dinner party, a remembrance, a meal shared. So, I offer you that as a symbol of communion today. Next time you put something beautiful, something simple, something nourishing in your mouth, to remember, yes, there is enough. What I'd love to leave you with today is a blessing written by Kate Bowler, and she has written a book with a colleague of hers. It's called The Lives We Actually Have, 100 Blessings for Imperfect Days. And this is her blessing for around the table. So, take what you will, leave what you don't need. Here is a blessing for your table. God, awaken us to the everyday miracle of a simple meal. Whether it's a takeout that took a phone call, a recipe that took an entire afternoon, or the cereal for dinner again feeling this meal creates, bless it all. So blessed are we sharing a meal today. May we recognise God's goodness in the thoughtful preparation, in the delivering, in the eating together, savouring something that tastes like love. May our time around the table be a gift. May we be present to one another, engaging in all of our senses as an act of thankful worship to the nourishment that's before us with the people we love or are trying to. God, bless the hands that prepared this, those with us now, the ones we wish were. Bless us, O God, in all of our eating and cooking and gathering and sharing our jokes, talking with our mouths full and elbows on the table. May we taste and see that love multiplies. Amen. Gosh, it's been good sharing this Sunday Sanctuary with you. It's been good to learn how love can be expressed differently, expansively, and simply in a bowl, on a plate, in a cup. I love how soup was love for so many of us, and how whānau and friends and colleagues showed up as love in the form of food. So as you go on your day in your way, I hope that you intersect, taste, and see that food can be love and love can be food, and that there's enough. Ka kite anō. Thanks for being with us this Sunday Sanctuary.